One in five suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Monday with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays.
I'm Marla.
And I'm Dave.
And I'm back. I'm actually back.
And Marla is back in studio. Where's her chair, Tony? Where's her crowd? Where's her applause? There you go.
With what I've been through, Tony, that feels really good. I appreciate that.
Just want to remind everybody that today's show, like every show, is brought to you by NAMI, San Fernando Valley, and Loving Beyond Reason. Marla, you were saying?
I was just saying that it's good to be back in studio. It's always, I was giving this brief on the way here. Mental Health Mondays is something that David and I are really passionate about, and we want to continue to encourage all of you to share, because the conversations that we have are both full of information, full of shared stories, and it brings us together for a cause that 1 in 5 people suffer. So it's something that we all really need to keep in the forefront.
Absolutely. We all deal with it one way or the other. NAMI experts, both paid and unpaid volunteers who make up the organization, provide an environment showing unity in the community and collaboration for a common cause, and that cause is mental health. In keeping with that, our guest today is Adilene Valenzuela.
Hey.
She is the NAMI Greater Los Angeles Chapter Walk Manager and the Manager of Public Programs. She has a story to tell, and when we come back, we will have a great show with our guest, Adilene Valenzuela.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
Hey guys, listen up. Learn something.
All right. Welcome, Adilene.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for showing up.
Yes, and thank you for giving us the proper pronunciation of your name.
Yes.
Can we do it one more time just so we're Adilene?
Adilene.
Adilene. So,
Yes.
okay. So there you go. We did it. It's nothing worse, honestly, than you have a name and a pronunciation for a reason. So we want to be sure
Absolutely.
that in welcoming you and hearing your story that we actually can start by saying your name right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So go ahead, Dave.
Well, we just want to start jumping right in. When did you first become impacted by the mental health issue or mental illness?
Well, I will say things really took off for me when I was in college. So when I went to college, I think at the time, if I had gotten a diagnosis, I would have had clinical depression, like for sure. But there was no diagnosis. Like no one in my family had ever gone to see a therapist. Mental health isn't something that we talked about. And my sophomore year, I moved into a house with a bunch of other students, but it was random. Was
this on campus, off campus?
It was It was in Berkeley, so it was a little hippie house, and we found roommates through word of mouth, through friendship networks, and I remember that I couldn't stand some of these girls. I was thinking, like, how are we gonna get along? We have nothing in common, and surely over time, you're sharing space with people. You start to get to know each other, whether you want to or not. So I remember one of the girls that I lived with, I'll call her Judy.
Okay.
And Judy was from the LA area, from Koreatown, came from a Spanish-speaking household. Her parents were immigrants. And I remember that I'd say, let's hang out when we're back in LA for the summer, for the winter.
Yeah.
So when we'd come back home, I'd be in the area sometimes, and I'd say, hey, let me stop by. I'll scoop you up and we'll go. And she'd say, oh, no, I'll meet you there. I thought,
and she's one of your housemates at school.
She's one of my housemates at school, yeah.
But you guys had become friends.
We started to, because we were both from the LA area.
Right.
So I thought, let's hang out. And this went on over the year. And then what I learned is that the reason why Judy never let me pick her up from her house much less go inside the house, was because she had a sister who had schizoaffective disorder. And her parents were so ashamed, they wouldn't let anyone into the house.
Wow.
At all.
So she was completely isolated.
Now, were you able to, did you ever find out how old her sister was?
Her sister was, I believe, 2 years older than her. And so that was a bit jarring to me. Because I just felt it was so sad. I was literally like, I'm outside the house.
Right.
And it just never happened. And so the way that manifested when we were back in the Bay Area is Judy would have these moments where she'd say, I shouldn't be here. I should be back home and I should be helping my parents. I'd see her go through episodes of just deep sadness and pain and feel really guilty that why my sister and why not me? Why do I get to be away and I get to go to school and my sister's in that house? And she wouldn't share whatever mental health challenges she was having with her family because she felt like they were already so burdened with her sister. She didn't want to add to it. And so the folks that got to see this were her friends, and eventually over time we became friends as well as roommates. And so I stepped in to provide some of that support, not because she asked me to, but because it's my friend and we live together and I care about her. And I had this other roommate, same house. We couldn't be more different. She was from South Africa, super conservative, grew up upper middle class, and we started hanging out because she introduced me to rave culture. And one time we went to a rave in San Francisco. We're having a great time. We get back to this house and she starts having a panic attack. I'd never experienced a panic attack. I'd never seen one.
Now, were you partaking in the rave culture, as in all the way partaking in the rave culture?
I will say this first time, no.
Okay.
That's it.
Excuse me, Adilene, as your attorney, I ask you please no
we'll
longer
leave
answer
it at
any
that.
questions that David Thomas is actually inquiring.
We'll leave it at that. Exactly.
Right.
And we came back home and she was having a panic attack and I didn't know what to do. I'm sitting next to her and in between her hyperventilating, she said, please bring me water. Please stay with me. Please hold my hand. And I was scared, but I was more scared for her. And I sat there, and then once the attack was over, we talked about it, and she said that this going to the rave had triggered an experience for her, and that experience for her caused her CPTSD many years prior.
Wow.
And so I asked her, well, what does your family do to support you? Like, because she said this has happened before. And she said her family didn't know about it. And she broke down and cried and said that she has a brother who has schizoaffective disorder.
Wow.
And she
now,
said...
did the two roommates, did they know about each other's issues?
They actually didn't even chat much. I was kind of the one who talked to everybody in the house. Yeah.
You were the unifier.
A little bit. And so she said she didn't tell her family and they didn't know about it because the PTSD was triggered by something that was done to her. And she just could not imagine putting that burden on her parents on top of all the things that they've already experienced, just helping her brother navigate the road to wellness. And so here I was, I think 19 years old. I had experiences with mental health challenges, but nothing like this.
Yeah.
So what it did for me is it showed me that we had more in common than I thought, but also that I didn't carry this other burden of feeling like an imposter sometimes. Like, why am I here? Because they both said that I should be home.
Feelings of guilt, really.
Yeah.
It's like survivor's guilt.
Yeah, survivor's guilt, exactly. And I didn't carry that, and I was navigating my own challenges, but this was really different. And so through them and their stories, I started to learn about mental illness. And I mean, when I look at Judy and Monica, which is the other roommate from South Africa, they were so different. One was like low income, first generation, Spanish speaking. The other one was like upper class.
All right, Adilene, wait, hold that thought because we'll be right back after this break. and I want to ask you a really important question that in regards to your story. Okay. So we'll be right back after this break.
When Dave and Marla get together, it's hot.
Hi there, I'm Robin Mead. You are not alone if you're feeling like there's so much uncertainty to face right now. And while you're told to stay physically distant from people, it is more important than ever to stay close at heart by reaching out, sending a text, picking up the phone. You can also reach out to NAMI, the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization, because with all that's going on, it's more important than ever to care for each other.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave.
What is mental health? Mental health is a state of successful performance of mental function, resulting in productive activities, fulfilling relationships with other people, and the ability to adapt to change and to cope with challenges. According to happypeople.gov, mental health is essential to personal well-being, family and interpersonal relationships, and the ability to contribute to community or society.
Mental disorders are health conditions that are characterized by altercations in thinking, mood, and/or behavior that are associated with distress and/or impaired functioning. Mental disorders are among the most common causes of disability.
Mental health and physical health are closely connected. Mental health plays a major role in people's ability to maintain good physical health. Mental illnesses such as depression and anxiety affect people's ability to participate in health-promoting behaviors. In turn, problems with physical health, such as chronic diseases, can have a serious impact on mental health and decrease a person's ability to participate in treatment and recovery.
So remember, like we always say, your overall health includes your mental health. This message is brought to you by NAMI San Fernando Valley and Loving Beyond Reason.
David is a thinker.
I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically wear my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
So the question I have for you is, you mentioned when you started telling us, about your journey into understanding mental health as it related to you and to your roommates, that you did not initially have a diagnosis. You didn't know. So
she was more of a support system, as she was explaining.
But I wanted to know, because these are questions again that are always on the tip of everybody's tongue and thoughts. Did that have to do with your Latina or the Latino community?
I wouldn't say that it has to do with the Latino community, but what I will say is that, for example, I can say now, I feel pretty confident it was undiagnosed clinical depression, because I remember being in high school and literally not wanting to get out of bed. I was just so numb and in such a deep place of I think a sadness that just translated into a numbness to life. And I didn't understand that till years later. So I actually was one of those high achieving inner city kids. And I went to Berkeley and I was going through the motions. But I wasn't all there. I wasn't all there emotionally. I think if someone had said, hey, what you have, it's called depression, and you can get support for that, I think that my undergraduate experience, like a lot of other kids, could have been really different. So go ahead.
No. Go ahead, because I wanted to ask you, once you got through that, when you look back, now that you really have an understanding of mental health, did you see those things in your family? Did the light bulb? Yeah, did the light bulb come on and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like there are people in my family who have been depressed for a really long time, and just it manifests as, I'm going to lay here and not really do anything. General just feelings of sadness and substance abuse issues. So they all intersect with each other. I think that in the Latino community, the stigma is even greater. So I know that on average, 43% of Americans with a diagnosed mental illness receive treatment. In the Latino community, it's 33%. And
similar numbers for the African American community.
Lower.
Yeah.
Right.
It's less.
So I feel like for people of color in marginalized communities in general, mental health is something that we don't talk about often enough, and especially mental illness.
Well, it was ironic that you pointed out as some of your housemates, roommates in college, the shame and the guilt that they were dealing with in their families, and how some of their, at least Judy's family, was ashamed even to let you, take the friendship to that next level and be more intimate, because they had someone. By the way, our son has the exact same diagnosis. So we understand that, but, we just want to let everybody know that speaking out and what you're doing here today, that kind of helps break down that stigma so everyone can understand. And remember, we always say this, you're not alone. There's no need to feel like you have to suffer by yourself.
Right.
That's absolutely true.
And I wondered if the severity of what you experienced with your roommates and their siblings' conditions, pushed you into really beginning to find information and study in an effort, number one, to be a support to them, more of an information support. Did you get curious about mental illness at that point and really say, you know what, let me get into this?
Not exactly. So when I was in college, especially a college like Berkeley, it's a really active campus, and everyone has some cause that every student there that they're advocating for. So for me, I was immersed in this climate of activism, at this kind of hot seat of a lot of these social movements, and that trickles over onto the campus and the students there. So for me, what my first instinct was, how do I support my friends? How do I help you? And it wasn't like I sat there and said, let me figure it out. It's just, you start intuitively doing these things. As simple as when Monica had the panic attack, and I said, what does your family do so I can do it?
Yes, yeah.
And what I noticed was, especially with Judy, because Judy's family, her parents were low income, working class, and I mean, they really struggled. These are folks that are really at the margins. And I remember there were multiple times where she said she said she was going to drop out because she should be home and she should be helping her family. And one of those times I said, let's find something. There has to be something, that can help your parents. You can stay here. We'll figure it out. And we went on Google and we did a Google search. And all we found was the County Department of Mental Health and NAMI. That was it. And NAMI, the acronym stayed in my mind because they were the only place that had support services in Spanish, and two, they were free.
Yeah.
And that was huge because other things that we found, they were only in English. They were strictly like on the West Side, and it cost money.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. A lot of people don't realize that mental health services, when attached to your insurance, your private health insurance, the costs are astronomical. And that's where NAMI is a huge resource for all of us who have ever come across NAMI. We can't say enough about it.
And I'm going to speak to someone in the chat room, and just because of the topic, I always leave everyone anonymous. But the statement is, I hear people say that you're not alone often, but even when you're around people, you still feel alone. I'm living witness. We want to introduce you to NAMI. Please look up a NAMI in your area, because I promise you, it is the most complete support. And like she's saying, it's a volunteer, it's a free service, and it's worth it.
Well, we're glad that Adilene has turned the corner to talk about NAMI and her affiliation there, and the great work that she does with the Greater Los Angeles chapter. And we'll come back to that discussion in just a second.
We'll be right back.
All right, it's time for the poll break. Marla,
Okay,
the
I got
poll
this,
question
Dave.
break. Are you ready?
I got it.
What was last week's poll question?
Okay. Last week, the poll was simply, what percentage of adults in the United States live with bipolar disorder?
And your options were?
A, 0.05%.
Half of 1%.
B, 2.6%. Do you want to break that down?
No, it is what it is.
Okay, I thought you were my hype man, whatever. C, 3.8%. I'll give you a chance to answer that right quick. So what percentage of adults in the U.S. live with bipolar disorder? 0.05, 2.6, or 3.8?
2.6.
The answer is, Adilene, 3.8%. Even higher. The new poll question is this: post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is a psychiatric disorder that may occur in people who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event such as a natural disaster, a serious accident, a terrorist act, or war combat, or rape, unfortunately, or who have just been threatened with death, sexual violence, or serious injury. The question is, what is the number of U.S. adults living with PTSD? Your options are A, 5 million, B, 12 million, or C, 18 million. Now, you can catch the poll question. It's great fun, informative, anywhere our social media is shown, Marla.
And make sure you vote.
Indeed. We'll be right back. All right, we are back.
Thank you for letting me do that, because you only do that because my nails are nice. Vote.
I thought you were about to do something else. Anyway, I almost choked. Anyway, we're having a great discussion with Adilene, and she brought up NAMI and how she became aware of NAMI's existence as she was supporting her friends, her roommates in college. Tell us how it went from just understanding that it was a great resource to you deciding that you wanted to be involved.
Well, I graduated. I moved back to LA. I had a number of jobs.
She graduated, Tony.
Shout out to all the graduates. And the jobs that I was working, they were all nonprofit. They were all like social justice oriented jobs. And at the same time, just on my own, I was becoming a bit of a mental health advocate. Like, I'd always talk about mental health in my previous job. I had the directory of everyone who was in the network for therapy. And that job ended, the grant ended, and so I didn't have a job anymore. And I was traveling, and I saw that NAMI was hiring. I said, hey, I know those guys.
Yeah,
I know.
Right.
And then I saw what they were hiring for, and it was for the walk manager. And so when I read the description for the job, it was in my wheelhouse of all the things that I had already been doing. And I think to work at any nonprofit, whether you're volunteering or you're a paid employee, you have to have a certain level of investment, a certain level of passion. And so I already had that. I remember I lit up when I saw the ad. I was like, oh my God, they have a walk? I didn't even know they had a walk.
Right.
And that's how it started. I applied, I interviewed, and then I was brought on board.
Right. And we experienced the walk, and the interesting thing, when did you take this position as the walk manager?
February 2019.
So you really only had one walk under your belt before
COVID
struck.
That
So
is
tell
right.
me tell us how that's changed. How have you been able to flip into whatever
or integrate COVID protection measures into future walks?
Obviously, this year, unfortunately, NAMI is not doing their walk, which usually happens in October.
Right.
And so tell us what is there something in place of the walk, or what's happening since COVID?
So when COVID happened, we decided to move the walk to spring of 2021. So the walk is scheduled for May 22nd of 2021 in person, provided that we're there, right? Because obviously, if this is still going on, we'll have to shift to something virtual. What we're doing right now is we're lifting up mental illness for Mental Illness Awareness Week, which is usually the first week of October. And this year it would be Sunday, October 4th through Saturday, October 10th.
Okay.
And so we're calling that a week of hope. And it literally is a week of hope, not only for mental health and mental illness, but just through the time that we're living in and the intensity of this year. And there's a live stream concert fundraiser happening on Thursday, October 8th. And so we're asking folks to please support NAMI. You can support by being a volunteer. You can support by getting involved in the walk. You can support by giving money. And the reality is that these programs are at no cost to the people who need them, but it takes money to put all these programs together. And so during Mental Illness Awareness Week, we're doing educational pieces through social media. We're doing different workshops. There are opportunities for people to engage around mental illness, to talk about it, which I don't think we do often enough.
I agree.
And it's also an opportunity for people to give. And so you can give to NAMI Greater LA County. You can give directly to the NAMI closest to you, like NAMI San Fernando, NAMI Long Beach. So we're asking folks to support us and to put the word out there, and also to refer people to us, because we are a resource. And there's not that many, unfortunately.
And NAMI is the most complete resource for all mental health support. It's
and
complete.
Again, most of their programs are absolutely free to those that need it. And because of that, wealth of resource, we really need volunteers, like Adilene was saying, as well as not just your time, but also your money. And it's fun. When we have those walks, they're actually fun.
They are. and also, again, it's a community. It comes, and everybody is touched in the community. A lot of people want to push mental health aside because they feel like, I'm not affected. We're all affected, even if, like Adilene is saying, that she was helping friends. Like, in other words, you had your own issue that may not have been diagnosed, but the support, you're less than a degree from anyone who actually really needs to have you for us to come together. So it's a community effort.
Right.
And so this is how you can help. I want you to say, everybody get your phones, get a pen. Please give that date for the live stream one more time, because people, short attention spans.
Thursday, October 8th.
And who's going to be on the show? Is it a surprise?
There's a whole roster of artists, to be honest. So if you go on our NAMI-GLAC Instagram, the handle is NAMI-GLAC. You can see the latest updates with the artists that will be a part of it.
And please give the website for people to be able to donate. NAMI-GLAC.org. There you go.
All right, now quickly tell us about your duties as manager of public programs. Is that just kind of wrapped into being the walk manager, or
a little bit? It popped up because COVID popped up, to be quite honest. So once the walk was moved to the spring, we also had this increase in people calling into the helpline and people seeking support services. And really, like most organizations, we knew that we needed to engage with people online. So public programs are digital programs, really, is what the title should be, because that's about all we can do right now. And right now we have a weekly series called Mental Health in Me, which is part of our purpose of lifting the stories of people with mental health challenges, but specifically mental illness. And I feel like part of me coming into NAMI was because I had this firsthand experience as like a bystander and a friend.
Support,
is that I saw how mental illness, and you said this, Marla, it affects all of us, right? I really saw how it affects an entire ecosystem. Like, it affected me to see my friends in pain. They were affected by their siblings. Their parents were affected. And so to me, I think the really beautiful thing about NAMI is that they put the most vulnerable people first. And that's something that I say to people when they say, why do you care if this isn't something that you're living? It's not your brother, your sister. Why do you care so much? And I think, when we look at any movement for any type of social justice, you look at the immigrant rights movement, you look at Black Lives Matter, you always put the most vulnerable people first.
Yeah.
Those are the people that you want leading, and if the most vulnerable are taken care of, everybody else gets taken care of.
That's right.
We couldn't say it any better than that.
Caring is human.
Right,
and we're going to continue this great discussion when we come back.
Bad.
What are you doing?
Hurry.
Worthless.
Don't trust them. They'll hurt you. You're worthless.
It's pointless.
When the pain of schizophrenia meets hope, everything can change. Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
It's raw, real, and unfiltered.
Well, as usual, time flies. But before we actually go, we want you to give us one impact statement that what does mental health, help, and NAMI mean for you?
What I want to let people know is that you are not alone, and no one heals alone. It is not a cliche. It is true, and it takes all of us to make LA, to make our country a place where mental illness is not something to be stigmatized, a place where we have supports in place for the people who need them. And we're asking you to please help, to volunteer, to contribute, and to donate, because know that the money that you give and the time that you give to NAMI is really going to make a difference.
Well, there you get it. We can't say you're amazing.
She's amazing. You're
Thank
amazing.
you for coming by.
Our guest has been Adilene Valenzuela.
And this is Mental Health Mondays.
Absolutely. And your overall health includes your mental health. See you next week.